Good day. Happy Monday. Jocelyn Briggs here with Boundless Pursuits Coaching and Training, and I wanted to bring to you today 3 tips that I have learned over the last little while. I haven't been practicing them very well lately, full disclosure, but I return to them every time I'm experiencing any kind of just negativity, or I think of it as anxiety. And I want to full disclosure, I'm not talking about clinical anxiety. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about when we're struggling mentally to deal with stuff, right? And I feel like that's a lot of us right now, not to be negative, but there's a lot going on in the world. And, I've had some things happen personally over the last little while. And what I find is every now and then I kind of get stuck in that mindset of just, I don't know, I call it toxicity because once I go to that place, and I don't know if you feel this way too, but I find once I go to that place, it snowballs, right? I start comparing myself, I start judging, I start criticizing, I start seeing all the things that I'm unhappy with. And, think what you want is one of my kind of slogans, and it really truly takes effort and intention to think the thoughts that you want and not to choose the thoughts that come to you naturally. When we allow our mind to accept our thoughts just organically, we tend to find the negative in everything. And there's a lot of negative to be found these days, but there's also a lot of positive. So I wanted to share with you today 3 mantras. 2 are kind of ones I've been practicing for a little while that I needed to remind myself of recently. And the 3rd one's a new one that I actually heard today on my run. So say hi if you're joining and let me know where you're at, because you might be feeling fantastic and you might be having a great frame of mind right now lately, and you might be dealing with everything really well. So let me know in the comments if you're like, say 1, A-okay type of thing, if you're doing really good. And if you're struggling, or if you're, not at full peace and harmony with where you're at, like say 2, struggling, or just struggling is an extreme word. But okay, so first tip is I remind myself that everything happens for a reason. So the first 2 tips kind of go together. Everything truly happens for a reason. And when things happen that we're not really necessarily wanting, and that's a whole nother live, and I think I'm going to bring you that talk tomorrow, because I had another sort of aha this week about expectations. But essentially when things aren't going in line with what you want or what you expect, we can think that things aren't going our way. And yet, I really think we don't usually know why things happen, but we find out later after the fact that was a blessing, not a curse. In the moment, we didn't want that, so we're not happy with it, right? So number 1 is everything truly happens for a reason. And number 2, which is kind of along the same lines, I remind myself that everything happens for us, not to us. And so what that does is it reminds me to take the situation that I might not be pleased about and look into it a little deeper and think, what can I actually gain from this situation, and stop focusing on what I'm losing. Because I know that when things happen that aren't necessarily the way I wanted them to go, in the moment, I think it's happening to me, but it's actually probably happening for me. And I've gotten pretty good at reminding myself of this pretty quickly now, that, okay, what could be coming out of this for me? And once you train your mind to start to think that way, you can actually very quickly come up with a list of ways that situation can benefit you, instead of focusing on all of the ways that the situation can't. So I'll share with you vulnerably and transparently for a quick second. My son, my 12-year boy, got cut from his baseball team. So he went a level down. He got cut from the team. And initially it was like, and this is one of the situations that's present on my mind right now, but this isn't really the instigating factor. It's just something that happened. And it's very easy to kind of say to yourself, hey, Bonnie, oh, you're a pro at this stuff too. It's very easy in the moment to say, like, to victimize him, right? Like, he got cut. And it can very, on the surface, seem like a bad thing. But my husband was a little more prepared for it than I And as we talked about it, I realized there was actually a longer list of pluses to the situation than there was negatives. And that's how powerful this rule of thumb can be, is that things happen for us, not to us. Everything happens for a reason, and it's happening for you, not to you. Some situations can take a little bit more exploration and digging to find it, but in every situation, there are things that are pluses and things that are like pros and cons. And if we don't train our minds, we immediately will go to the cons, and then we will dwell on them, and we will focus on them, and we will really create a lot of anxiety and negativity around the situation, and we will completely miss all the pluses. And sometimes we never actually see those things if we actually, even later when we realize what a blessing it was. And there was so many reasons why him getting cut and going to a different team could actually be really, really good thing. So, and then the third thing, and this is a newer thing, and I heard this on a podcast this morning when I was running, and it was hold yourself to high standards, like have high standards for yourself and no expectations for others. So raise your standards, but lower your expectations. And I think that if you can, what I took from that is to accept people for who they are and what they are at that time, right? People can only disappoint us if they don't meet our expectations. People can only anger us if they don't meet our expectations. People can only upset us if they don't meet our expectations, right? People don't have any control over how we feel. Only we control how we feel. So if you feel angry at somebody, you're letting them anger you. If you feel hurt by them, you've allowed them to hurt you, right? And so we can achieve a higher level of happiness and peace if we can raise our own standards. So hold ourselves to a higher standard in life, whether that means your health, whether that means your mindset, whether that means, choices that you make. But the key is to release expectations of others, because the less that you expect from others, the less they can impact your emotions and your happiness. Right? And your happiness compounds. I created the saying the other day, like everything compounds, and 0 compounded is 0. So 0 compounded is 0. And I lost my train of thought there. But that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I hope that is helpful for you if you are struggling, if you are, having a hard time with anything, because there is a lot of polarity currently. There's a lot of negative to be found, and I just wanted to bring those things to you to help you find maybe a little bit more peace and happiness. I will share with you one bonus thing that I heard today that I really, really loved, which was happiness cannot be pursued, it can only be uncovered. And so know that happiness isn't out there to be found, it's already within you. And what we do starting when we're toddlers is we bury it, and we bury our own perfections, but we lose sight of happiness within us. And as we get older, many of us get led astray looking for happiness outside of us, and we become more and more miserable as we pursue and never find it, right? And so I think these 3 sort of tips, that if you can practice those, like write them down, put them on your fridge, practice them every night, make them affirmations. Oh my God, I can't even speak today. I didn't get much sleep on the weekend. What were the 3 things? Raise your standards, lower your expectations. Everything happens for you, not to you, and everything happens for a reason. And then your bonus one today was happiness cannot be pursued, it can only be uncovered. So have an awesome Monday, and we will chat soon.